Hi there, welcome. Yesterday, I completed a 1,000, more than 1,000 bait fisherman run in Brotato, and it was a pretty cool accomplishment. It was really fun. I had a good time. I worked on it for about 16 hours straight, and I wanted to make a video explaining what I just did, why it was fun, and showing you the actual run itself. So that's what we have here. First up, I should explain what Brotato is. This is a game that I've played a good amount of on stream, but I haven't put that much of it onto my main YouTube channel. I do have a second YouTube channel that has all of the VODs from my stream, which has a lot of Brotato play on it. If you want to click around and find that, you are welcome to. The basic idea, though, is you're a potato with guns. You have 20 waves. Each wave, you walk around killing enemies, collect materials that they drop when you kill them, and then you buy new items and guns. And if you survive all the waves, you win. Here's an example of a Brotato wave. That's me. I am running around hitting things with loots. That's one of the weapons you can have in this game, a loot. I have 6 of them. Everything else is an enemy. The green dots are money. End of the wave, I found a chest, so I get an item out of that. I level up, so I choose some new stats. I think I leveled up twice, I guess. And then in the shop, I buy some things. And after I'm done buying things, upgrading weapons, stuff like that, I press go and I go into the next wave. And that, in a nutshell, is Brotato. You do that for 20 waves. And if you survive them all, you win. So, Brotato has 62 different characters. DLC released recently, which upped that number. It had previously been 48, I think, maybe. One of the weirdest ones is Fisherman. So all of the characters have a bunch of different starting stats, etc., 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 and that changes how the game plays. Some of them aren't allowed weapons, but whenever they get hit by something, they deal damage, or they just have to run the timer out on the wave every time and can't actually kill the enemies. Or they're really good at using turrets, or they're really good at using flamethrowers, or they're really good at using assassin weapons, or they are really good at healing, and every time they heal, they deal damage to a random enemy, or the combination of different things is not quite endless, but enough to give you hundreds of hours of interesting gameplay in this game, and different characters really change how you should optimize a run in pretty drastic ways. And Fisherman is one of those characters who changes runs in a pretty drastic way. So the minus 50% materials dropped from enemies that you see on Fisherman there is like the downside of this character. You are not going to have as much money, you're not going to have as much experience as a regular character unless you make up for it with the other things that are going on. And having 50% fewer materials is absolutely enough to make you lose. Like, we have to make up for that somehow. We get 5 extra max HP at the start. That's fine. That survives like 2 hits at the start of the run, 5 max HP, and later on it will still be enough to survive an extra hit maybe. And we get plus 20 harvesting. Harvesting is a stat which just gives us some money and experience every wave. So that lessens the impact of minus 50% materials at the start of the run by giving us like a flat amount more materials that we're getting every wave. But as the run goes on and waves get more and more packed with enemies and there are more and more materials being dropped from the enemies, 20 harvesting is not going to be enough to make up for that. So where we have to make up the difference is the rest of this. Shops always sell a bait. Baits cost minus 100%, so it costs you 1 material to buy a bait always throughout the entire run. And you get plus 2 harvesting for every 1 bait you have. Bait is an item here. It gives you plus 8% damage, so if you buy lots of them, you're going to have a lot of plus % damage. And it makes special enemies appear at the beginning of the next wave. So the play pattern for Fisherman is every time you go into the shop, there will be a bait there. It will cost 1. You can purchase it. If you do, you get plus 2 harvesting, which will help you make money. You get plus 8% damage, which will help you keep up with the increasing health values of the enemies as the waves go on. But special enemies appear at the beginning of the next wave. And if you buy like 7 baits in the same shop phase, you're going to have 7 times as many enemies appearing at the beginning of the next wave. So, you know, you are in danger. Further, there's this line, baits make some special enemies spawn throughout all future waves. That's not very well explained. Essentially, there are thresholds where, say, if you have purchased 25 bait or 50 bait or something, regular enemies will be replaced by these special enemies in your runs. And the special enemies are more dangerous. They charge at you, they shoot bullets, not at you, but 45-degree angles around you. So while they charge at you, if you avoid them, you'll likely run into a bullet. And that's Fisherman for you, basically. You have to decide, it's like risk-reward. Can I get away with buying 3 baits right now, or will I die at the start of next wave? If I don't buy 3 baits right now, how am I going to keep up with the fact that I have so many fewer materials than other characters? Yeah. Very, very fun character. So anytime something like this is going on, in my head, I am thinking, what is the most extreme version of this that I could do? And so the challenge that I set for myself was to try to buy 1,000 or more baits over the course of one regular run, just 20 waves. You can go into endless mode where you keep on playing and the enemies get stronger and stronger and stronger. You can even kind of go infinite in that, where like you just get stronger faster than the enemies do and never die. But I wanted to do it over the course of the 20 waves. Prior to the DLC coming out, I had already enjoyed trying to get as many baits as possible on Fisherman. That was just a fun thing to do. And the DLC shook things up in some interesting ways, which made it possible to get this bait number much, much higher than before. So let's talk a little bit about the struggle, the problems in trying to get this number over 1,000. Problem 1, you have to buy 1,000. It's the most direct problem. That's a lot of baits to buy. Even though baits only cost 1 material each, there's still the price of rerolling the shop in order to get offered the baits. And every wave, every time you reroll the shop, it gets more expensive than it was before. So if you're trying to buy like 5 baits in one wave, sure, that won't be a problem. But if you're trying to buy 50 baits on average per wave, the fact that the shop reroll cost increases is going to start to become very significant. So in order to pull this off, I wanted to reduce the reroll price of the shop as much as I possibly could. And the DLC introduced this new item called Spyglass, which by default gives you 10 range and gives minus 25% reroll price. But the DLC also introduced a curse mechanic. If you have curse on your items or on your character, there is a chance that future items that you find will be cursed. So what you're looking at here is actually a cursed version of Spyglass. It will make me further cursed, but its stats are higher. And this one is giving minus 46% reroll price instead of minus 25% reroll price, so significantly higher. Cursed items, I think, can roll up to 110% better stats, and they roll better and better stats the later in the run that you find them. So if we found Spyglass cursed at the very beginning of the run, it wouldn't, I think, be able to have minus 45% or better reroll price. But this is the Spyglass that I used on the run that I just played. And this managed to have minus 46% reroll price when I found it, I think, on wave 16. We'll see later. So this is going to make the shops cost far, far, far less to reroll. The most that you can reduce reroll price by is 90%. And I was able to find a Spyglass. Then I locked it in my shop. And I had 3 fish hooks at this point in the run, which says locked items and weapons have 20% chance to become cursed when leaving the shop, when I leave the shop. So I go into a wave, and there's a chance that that Spyglass became cursed, but I don't actually know if it is or not yet. Then, during the wave, I fought a bunch of enemies. A few of them dropped items. One of the items that dropped was a mirror. Mirror duplicates the next item that you purchase. So I found a mirror, and I was like, oh my god. Is this it? Did Spyglass curse Go into the shop. Yes, Spyglass Cursed. Also, Spyglass Cursed with enough reroll price reduction to get me to a sum of more than 90%. So I bought 2 of the same Cursed Spyglass, and boom, minus 90% reroll price. Done. That right there is the hardest part of getting this run together. That's just a very specific thing that has to happen with a very specific item in the game that has to be cursed, which is hard to do as well, and has to roll fairly well on the curse. This is, in terms of like this being like an RNG category kind of thing, this is the way in which that is true. 100%. There's a lot of other stuff going on too. I also need lots of money to find the spyglasses, and I need lots of money to reroll after I get the spyglasses. It isn't enough to just reduce reroll cost by 90%. I also need tons and tons and tons of materials to actually buy the baits, because even at 10% of regular reroll cost, the rerolls still go up significantly in price. I think in the final wave, my reroll cost started at 1 or 2, and by the time I was finished buying baits, it was at, I think, like 100-ish. And that's with 90% cost reduction. So we still need lots and lots and lots of money to actually buy all of these baits. And so I have a bunch of items here which give you more money. There's Starfish. This gives you 20% more materials dropped from enemies. There's Black Flag. This gives you an extra material whenever you kill a cursed enemy. It also gives you 10% more enemies total. So having more enemies gives you more enemies to kill, gives you more money. We had hunting trophies. I actually got a really nice cursed hunting trophy fairly early in the run. So a regular hunting trophy, 33% chance to gain a material when killing an enemy with a critical hit. Cool. I got up to 100% crit pretty early, so that's giving me 1 material for every 3 enemies killed. And I got 3 of these, one of which was cursed and had a 50% chance instead of a 33% chance. Awesome. Coupons. Coupons saved me 24,000 materials this run. Coupons not super helpful for buying the baits themselves, because baits just cost 1 for this character, but for buying every other item that helps make us more materials, helps us find those baits, coupon is a big deal. I got 1 good cursed coupon and the 4 regular coupons as well. And I also got a fairly early crown. Crown makes it so that your harvesting increases by 8% more than usual at the end of a wave. So harvesting by default increases by 5% every wave. So when we started with 20 harvesting, that will go up to 21 at the end of wave 1. Not a super huge increase or anything, but over the course of 20 waves, that does add up a little bit. With Crown, instead it's going up by 13%, and that does start to snowball even more rapidly. And so Crown gave us an extra 1.1 thousand harvesting. In total, at the end of the run, I had 5,000 harvesting. Keeping in mind that buying a bait gives me 2 harvesting, so like 2,000 plus of that harvesting is just from having 2 harvesting per bait. That's giving me a lot of money as well. If you haven't played Brotato, for like a pretty normal character who isn't doing economy breaking sorts of stuff, you're looking at like 300 to 500 materials gained per wave. So getting 5,000 materials per wave just with harvesting is very, very, very significant economically compared to what a regular run would have. This is kind of like all the really, really strong economy generating items in the game, and I got all of them, and like a large part of why I got all of them was that I went super hard to get lots of harvesting early. I got a little bit lucky on this run, of course, and then once I get 1 or 2 of them, they give me a lot of economy, and I can re-roll and find more of them and get the other ones too. And at some point, you have all of them. There are also Gentle Alien and Mouse, which I didn't put on this slide, which make it so more enemies spawn, and I absolutely got quite a few of those. So if there are more enemies on the wave, you will drop more materials. A fairly significant thing to note here, Brotato has unlockable items. So when you beat a character on Brotato, it unlocks an item for you. And in order to do this challenge, I didn't actually want a lot of those items in the item pool. A lot of them were detrimental because by unlocking them, I made it so that they might show up in a shop, but I didn't actually want them to show up in a shop. Also, this graphic is incorrect. Lure I did have. That says no, but it should say yes. Whoops. Anyway, that's fine. So, I'm going to change this right now because I am an excellent streamer. So, I basically made a new save file and unlocked only the items that I wanted and didn't unlock the items that I didn't want. And anytime that you're doing some like very, very, very specific challenge in Brotato, this is a sensible thing to do. For what it's worth, in order to do this, you can just edit your save file. It is just a text file in JSON form, and it's easy to edit it with a text editor. Like, it's actually pretty intuitive. You don't even really need a guide if you just find the save file in your roaming data on PC. I guess it's harder to do on a Switch or whatever, but on PC, if you find your save file in your roaming data and just like open it, it will be very obvious to you how to make it so like, no, actually, I don't want this item unlocked for my next run. So, problem 2. This is also a pretty obvious problem. Problem 2 is that when you buy bait, it spawns a lot of enemies. And I'm buying 1,000 of these. So I want to show you the run before my final run. This is the run before I succeeded. The run in which I succeeded was like an hour and a half long. A lot of that time was spent in shops buying bait. And I like murdered everything and my number went off the charts. But the run before my final run looked like this. Here we go. This is wave 1. Wave 1 is pretty straightforward. You don't have a shop phase before wave 1, so all we're doing is walking around, killing the enemies on wave 1. It's kind of interesting because you get minus 50% materials from enemies, which means there's actually a die roll every time you kill an enemy to see if you get a material or not. So there's actually quite a lot of variance in how many materials exactly you get. We got 62 this time, which is pretty normal-ish, I would say. And this is our shop phase. We're pressing reroll a lot, we're buying bait a lot. We have 3 scissors now, and I'm just going to keep on rerolling and buying bait. And so I have 7 baits and 3 scissors, and what that makes the start of wave 2 look like is that. So this, it isn't just a theory crafting exercise. We also have to be able to successfully survive waves like that. And that time around, I didn't. So, how are we going to do that? First off, I didn't actually start with scissors. Like, when I started this challenge, I did not begin by going for scissors. Scissors were not a starting option for Fisherman until recently. So it didn't actually, like, intuitively occur to me that this was even a thing I could go for. But eventually, as I played more and kind of got a sense of what the problems were that I was having to solve, I was looking through the starting weapons or I think actually I found scissors during a run and they were doing really well. And I was like, yeah, these seem like they would do really well. Can you start with these? And someone in chat was like, yeah, you can actually. So I switched to starting with scissors. The big thing with scissors, the reason why they're so good to start with here is that they have 40% innate lifesteal. A level 1 scissors. What's the plural of scissors? Like, if you have 2 pairs of scissors, are they scissors? I think they're just scissors. 2 pairs of scissors. Scissors. Anyway, this says that a tier 1 pair of scissors has 40% lifesteal, and what that means is not... In a lot of games, what that would mean is that you heal for 40% of the damage that you deal with them. But that's not what it means in Brotato. In Brotato, what it means is every time you hit something with them, you have a 40% chance to gain 1 hit point. And thinking back to that wave you just watched, scissors are like a stabbing weapon. You stab out, and they have an area of effect that they hit as they stab out. And there were a lot of enemies in that area I was hitting. So if I'm stabbing things with scissors and there's that dense a pack of them, I'm going to hit lots of enemies with each stab, which gives me lots of chances to roll this lifesteal. Lots of chances to get +1 hit point. And since the enemies are only hitting me for 2 damage on wave 2, that goes a long way to making this a survivable thing. Scissors also have precise weapon tag, so they are medical and they are precise. Having a precise weapon equipped means that other precise weapons are more likely to show up in your shops. And I want to get away from scissors pretty quickly in the run and switch to a different precise weapon. So the fact that they are precise is a big appeal to them. Where there are some other weapons which are pretty good at surviving the early waves too, but they don't have the precise tag. And so they're making it much harder to transition into the final weapon that I want to play, which is Thief Dagger. Thief Dagger is a precise weapon, so again, the precise tag on scissors makes it so Thief Dagger shows up. And the big thing about Thief Dagger is it has this special effect. It has a chance to gain 1 material when killing an enemy with a critical hit with this weapon. So in order to get as many materials as possible, I want to equip Thief Daggers, I want to get to 100% crit chance, and I want to, kill the many enemies who I am spawning. Enemies in Brotato increase in strength every wave, but they don't increase in strength like per item you purchase or per material you earn or anything like that. So if you're earning far more materials than you should be, in quotation marks, than a regular run would be every wave, you can get to a point where it doesn't really matter how many enemies there are because you just have spent enough materials on armor and sustain and stuff like that that the enemies are not going to be able to kill you no matter how many of them are standing on top of you at once. And so we need the lifesteal from scissors at the start to stay alive, because I am not quite able to dodge every single one of that huge pack of enemies and all of the dots that they're shooting. I'm increasingly pretty good at dodging most of it, though. But as quickly as possible, we want to get away from scissors into Thief Daggers so we can start making more materials, and then with our more materials, we will be able to buy some armor, buy some sustain, be basically invincible, and then with the excess materials above that, we can do a lot of rerolls and look for the stuff that will actually get us tons of baits as we get into the mid and late game of the run. You can also find Cursed Thief Daggers, which give a 100% chance to gain 1 material when killing an enemy with a critical hit. So that's like the true late game. That's like the most extra money that it's possible for you to make out of your weapon slots. And that's what I'm aiming for there. So I was just talking about drain tanking. We're going to get hit. I'm going to get hit a lot no matter what. And to solve that, it's not a matter of like having 1,000 hit points, because over the course of a 60-second wave, which is the length of the waves in the second half of the run are 60 seconds. Over the course of 60 seconds, like 1,000 health, the enemies are going to deal that much damage to you. No problem, really. It's more a matter of healing faster than the enemies deal damage to you. And so having like 60 health is fine. Even if the enemies deal me 2,000 damage in a wave, whatever. But I want to make sure that I'm able to heal that damage back at least as fast as it's coming in. So in order to do that, we had 5 tentacles. Tentacle gives a little bit of crit chance and also gives a 20% chance to heal 1 HP when killing an enemy with a critical hit. We're killing tons and tons of enemies, so that gives us lots and lots of chances to recover HP. I also happened to get a cursed tentacle in this run, which was kind of nice. And you get to see another example of a cursed item. It has a bit more crit chance and almost double chance to heal 1 HP, so that's nice. I also got a goblet. And Goblet gives a 15% chance to heal 1 HP when killing an enemy. So in this run in particular, not quite as good as Tentacle, because I'm killing almost every enemy I kill with a critical hit. In fact, I think toward the end of the run, I just straight up was killing every enemy I killed with a critical hit. But still a very powerful item. I actually didn't end up buying all 3 goblets over the course of the 20 waves, despite having so much money and so many rerolls. There are just a lot of items in the game, and so you're not going to get all of them. And also, probably, like, at some point you actually do have enough sustain, so it's just kind of a waste of money to spend money on another goblet. I probably saw some in a shop and didn't buy them. It helps for what it's worth that Brotato has some iframes, so when you get hit, you can't get hit again for a little bit. And that comes up a lot with movement, where, like, if you commit to walking through a wave of enemies, you can maybe get through there only getting hit 1 time. Whereas if you don't commit to walking through that wave of enemies and get yourself cornered, you'll just be stuck in a corner and get hit like 3, 4, 5 times trying to get out. So sometimes you have to like recognize, oh, this is a bad spot. I am going to get hit several times if I'm not careful. What's the way I can get out of this spot, getting hit as few times as possible? And thinking about iframes is a big deal with that. But it's also a big deal with thinking about drain tanking, where like if the entire map is just full of bait enemies all at once and they're all on top of you, they can only actually hit you once every so many fractions of a second, and so they can only deal so much damage to you per second, and if you heal more than that damage per second, you're going to be okay. The other part of solving the problem of there being so many enemies on the map was just to get good. It took me 141 attempts to get this run that I'm talking about. I had played 600 hours of the game prior to that, and maybe 50 hours of the DLC, so I was already familiar with the movement, the hitboxes, stuff like that. And to me, that's one of the most appealing parts of this challenge. Is, yeah, a lot of the challenge is going to come down to, do you roll a really good Cursed Spyglass at the right time, for sure. But there's really no ceiling, no reachable ceiling at least, on how much better you can get at giving yourself a better chance of that happening. By getting better at surviving the early waves so that you more frequently reach a point where you might get a good Cursed Spyglass. And also by like, if you're good enough to survive the early waves without investing so much in defensive stats and stuff like that, you can instead invest in stuff that will boost your economy, which will then give you more chances to reroll, which will increase your chance of finding the stuff that you need later on in the run. So a lot of the deaths were like testing the limits, like pushing, seeing if I could do something without buying armor, or seeing if I could equip 3 thief daggers earlier than I had before, which meant that I didn't have as many scissors, so I don't have as much lifesteal, but I do have some extra materials coming in from the thief daggers already. Is what my run history looked like. With some notes on here about how my strategy changed. I actually started out going for a knife start. So knife is another precise weapon, and I think it is possible that if I kept doing this for another week or two, I would go back to starting with knife. The reason that I started with knife is it deals more damage than scissors, so it can like clear wave 2 more effectively, but still has the precise tag in order to get a thief dagger. Since it has the precise tag and doesn't have the medical tag, it actually has a higher chance to find thief dagger in a shop than scissors does. So if I got to a point where I was really good at surviving the early waves, I would want to move away from scissors and go back to starting knife probably, so that I could get thief daggers going more quickly, more frequently. And that's like why I started with knife. I was like thinking about, okay, if I imagine how this should go if I play perfectly, which admittedly I can't do yet, but like where should I be aiming? I would want to get thief daggers going as quickly as possible, and the weapon that lets me do that the best is knife, so let's try starting with knife. And how starting with knife went is when it says R, that means I rerolled, I reset. So I beat wave 1 on the first run, and I was just going for thief dagger in the first shop at this point. So if I didn't find like 3 thief daggers in the first shop, I was basically just resetting the run. And yeah, around about here, I was like, okay, that's a bit too much resetting. Let's try just using knives, and we can get thief daggers when we get them. But I'm keeping on dying on like wave 2 and 3 and 5 and stuff like that. This time I made it to wave 9, very exciting. More deaths. And it was, I think, this run where I found some scissors in a shop, and I needed another weapon. And I looked at them, and I was like, wait a second. Scissors seem like they could be actually really good here, because lifesteal's going to be good against so many enemies, etc., etc. So I bought them, and they did really well. And then I asked chat, like, hey, are scissors, like, a starting weapon for this character? Because maybe we should just start with scissors. They're precise, too. So then I switched to starting with scissors. And, immediately, I was getting a little bit deeper into the run, like wave 7, wave 10 twice. First time that I reached wave 10, by the way. But I still wasn't quite breaking through. I I started thinking like maybe it's just not really plausible to go as hard as I'm going early in the run. Because the problem as I got to wave 10 wasn't that I couldn't purchase baits on wave 10. It was that I had already purchased so many baits that the enemies on wave 10 were overwhelming because of the special enemies replacing the regular enemies who would normally be spawning. And they were just overwhelming my scissors and the lifesteal that I had from them. And I was thinking, like, geez, how am I going to actually do this? Maybe I need to be more conservative and just get to a point where I am in mid game and get really lucky with the spyglass roll. So I tried playing with SMGs for a little bit. SMGs are just a very consistent weapon. I thought maybe we don't go anywhere near as aggressive with purchasing stuff early in the game. We just kind of get our combat stats going and survive and, buy some baits, but not tons of baits. And then our SMGs should scale really well and we can stop dying on wave 10. Trying out SMGs was a response to getting to wave 10 a couple of times and dying both times. I was like, there is a problem in mid game where we're basically killing things with very small knives. And this is a game with machine guns in it. Maybe the machine gun would be easier. So I tried that a bit. It did not impress me. I was dying because I was like trying to work out like how hard can I push, and that's a lot of these deaths are me being like, can I get away with doing this? No. Okay. Can I get away with doing this? No. Okay. But eventually, like every 20 runs, you find one thing which you can get away with doing, and you're like, oh, cool. Well, I'll add that to my repertoire, even if it only works half the time, and then like half of the time you still die, but half of the time you make it to the next wave, kind of idea. Anyway, I tried SMGs for a bit. Wasn't a huge fan, so back to scissors. Wave 9, wave 7, wave 9, blah, 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 blah. And then I finally got a run where I got some broken items, some good sustain, some good armor, made it to wave 20, and got 474 baits, which was a new personal best for me at the time. Also, by the way, I think I counted that wrong. I think it was probably only like 470. Because there are rows of 9, and when the row was... It's hard to explain, but I think I overcounted by like probably like 2 or 3. Not a huge deal. Anyway, made it to wave 20, got 474 baits. And that's actually the point where I started thinking about like, okay, how do I make that into 1,000? I hadn't even really thought about cursed spyglass yet. I was still working out like, how do we take the most aggressive early game that I can possibly make into the middle game and the late game. And I didn't have much experience playing the middle game yet, and this was my first experience playing the late game off of the early game that I had developed for myself. So this was where I started thinking about, okay, what sorts of things can we do in late game to bring this 474 number higher? Did some thinking about that while we went through mid game another several times, and then got another wave 20, which again, I don't think I counted how many baits were on this one. I was looking at the video and didn't see myself do it. I'm sure that I did and just missed the video, but I also didn't write it down. I don't think it was higher than like my previous total of 474. And at that point, with my second iteration going through late game, I was like, okay, I now have a pretty good idea of how the run develops. I kind of understand which items are important and which items are just completely unnecessary. I understand what sort of build I'm going for and why that's the build that I have to go for, like what restraints are forcing me into going for that build. And so I now know which items are actually ideal. And that's when I made the new save file. So I didn't make the new save file where I decided which items I was going to be playing with until I'd already played over half of the runs total that I did. Almost 2/3, it looks like. Yeah, that might be 2/3. Anyway, with the new save file, that's going to be a really big deal for like mid and late game when you're seeing lots and lots and lots of shops, because you won't see the items that you don't want to buy anymore, and that's going to make it so you see the items you do want to buy a lot more often. And the next time that I made it to late game, I got 591 baits, and then it only took me 5 runs after that to get another one, 521, and then 2 runs after that to get 506. So at this point, I like had early game pretty well worked out. I had a good idea of how to transition in mid game, and I was getting a better sense of what exactly had to happen for late game to really pop off. it just hadn't quite come together yet. It was just like kind of a matter of keeping on playing until we got the really high roll on the spyglasses at that point. And when I had dinner, I played a few runs offline. I had a new personal best playing offline of like 700 and something, and I was like, gee, this could actually happen any run. I should stream it. So I threw a stream on where I like wasn't really talking and was just like doing the stream so the video was accessible if something happened. And you can see at this point, like, I'm not really dying wave 2 anywhere near as often as I used to be. I'm pretty regularly making it into like the beginnings of mid game at least. But I was also being very, very aggressive in my early game stuff, so the transition into mid game wasn't always playing out. And I finally hit it and got 1,215 baits. It's a graph of how, like, what wave I reached in each run over time. So you can see here are the knives. I'm just dying in early game all the time, trying to work out exactly how everything feels. Worked out that scissors were pretty good, and that started getting me through early game a lot more commonly, but I was still having a lot of trouble turning the corner through mid game into late game. Finally got my first win. Got my second win. On my second win, I was like, okay, let's think about how are we going to optimize now that we have the idea of getting through the entire run worked out. So I made my new save file. At this point, I'm like getting into mid game fairly regularly. Got 3 more wins. All of these lines that go up behind my camera are wins. And then the later stream is here. And at that point, like, most of my runs are reaching early mid game. And we finally put it all together. So I talked quite a bit about like how I developed over the course of 16 hours, which I think is the most interesting thing to me about the entire thing, is like which things did I learn, which things did I try, and I'm hoping that that'll be instructive to you if you want to think about like how to challenge yourself with challenge sorts of runs in gaming. The things I would identify as being a really big deal, I got a lot better at dodging the sorts of waves that I was in. They are not normal waves for Brotato. You don't usually have all the enemies replaced with lamprey. You don't usually have like 50 lamprey spawning at the start of a wave. So I had to work out exactly what the characteristics of those enemies were and how to dodge their attack pattern. As I got better at dodging, I started being able to be greedier at the start of the run because I was better at dodging. So I didn't have to take as many stats which were about surviving, and I could instead take things like harvesting and luck on early level ups, which then help your economy go off in the mid game. I could take thief daggers earlier and take crit for them to start getting money from them earlier as well. At the start, I was going for 6 scissors, and then only after I had those was I starting to add like 1 or 2 thief daggers, but I was still mostly staying on like 4 scissors until I had some sort of broken sustain item worked out. But by the end, I was pretty happily hanging out on like 2 scissors and 4 thief daggers if I could, even before I had strong sustain items. I also stopped buying sustain items that weren't strong. So like toward the beginning, if something said like 2% lifesteal, I would probably buy it, just thinking like, I need to get to a certain amount of sustain. This isn't the strongest, most efficient way to get to that much sustain, but it is a way to get closer to it and will keep me alive for a bit longer to give me the chance to do that. Later on, I was just like, no, that's a waste of money. If I find a couple of tentacles, I'll be good. Let's just keep rolling until we get a couple of tentacles. And if we don't find them, that's okay, we die. I also started getting greedier with early game bait purchases, leading to quite a few more deaths. So I had been like kind of like having, basically in my mind, how I thought I'd go about this challenge was kind of like developing an understanding of what's the most bait that you can buy on every wave, and buying the most bait that I could buy on every wave without dying until I reached a point where I could buy as much as I wanted because I was just invincible. As I got better at dodging and better at understanding the limits of the character and the attack patterns of the enemies, it more and more and more just became, I am going to buy as much bait as possible on every single wave. And for the most part, I got to a point where I was good enough that I could survive that. And yeah, because I was playing kind of more economically aggressively, I was able to get to mid-game more often, at which point I was more likely to be able to reach full drain tanking and more likely to be able to win. The other thing that changed over the course of 16 hours is basically everything that's in the slideshow didn't exist in my head before yesterday happened. Like, all of this stuff was forced into my brain by me just dying repeatedly in this video game, which is fun for me to think about. Obviously, it's a lot of concepts, more general concepts that I'm bringing into this specific situation, but the exact application of them to this challenge, I didn't have before yesterday, and so that's something that I have worked out. All of these slides are, and all of the justifications for these slides that I've been saying are basically things that didn't exist in my brain before yesterday morning, which is really fun. Gaming's cool. The DLC is new, and I didn't read any theory crafting posts about this before starting it as a challenge. Like, there are other people who have tried to do this sort of thing. I think someone had 900 before I started, something like that. But I much prefer treating a challenge like this as something that I approach from a blank slate. I don't want other people to tell me what's important in the challenge because I want to arrive at the appropriate evaluation of the importance of different things on my own. So I worked out an experiment with breakpoints on Spyglass, which is kind of like, if you were going to give a one-sentence explanation of what this run is to somebody, you would have to say, like, it's about getting 2 cursed spyglasses so you can reroll really efficiently while spending lots of materials on bait. That's kind of like sort of what you'd have to say, I think. But I didn't even think about that until I had worked out like 80% of what I've just told you. Because actually, if you're executing on this challenge, the really hard part is working out how you play like early and mid game in order to reach a point where you try to do the most broken thing possible in late game. Once you get to a point where you're doing the most broken thing possible in late game, it's largely just clicking on bait in shops. Like, you buy 2 items and you click on the bait, blah, 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 whatever. Before I reached that point, I had to work out a fairly complicated build path and get much, much, much better at dodging fairly dangerous enemies in order to execute on that build path. So, yeah. I'm hoping that in presenting this achievement in this way, you're getting to see, like, no, I did like a lot of work. It isn't just something you can summarize in one sentence. And yeah, you can talk about the broken thing that happens in late game, but the stuff that happens in early game and mid game in order to reach the point where you can do the broken thing in late game is very complex and challenging. I would identify a challenge like this by trying to work out how to play wave 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and so on before I got up to working out how to play wave 15, though, kind of idea. Because knowing that there's a broken thing you can do in late game isn't as meaningful if you don't understand what is the most favorable way that I can arrive in late game to do the broken thing. Anyway, I am now going to watch the run with you. There's a lot of shop phase stuff toward the end of the run, so I'm probably going to 2x speed that, or maybe even fast forward it. But I'm just going to do the best I can of talking through what's happening in the run and explaining what's going on, because I wasn't really giving live commentary at the time. It was late at night and I'd already streamed a lot during the day. So, this is wave 1. We have our scissors, we're running around. Some of the enemies are dropping materials, some are not, because the character gets minus 50% materials from enemies. And overall, this is a moderate wave 1. 64 materials is just fine. I take melee damage on the first level up. I'm going to pause quite frequently in here to talk about different things. I'm also going to reduce my camera size a little bit so that you can see my curse size and current level. So on the first level up, I took melee damage there. Our scissors deal a certain amount of base damage plus some scaling based on melee damage, and then that's in like 1 parenthesis, and then they multiply it by our damage percent. So because I'm getting so much damage percent by buying so many baits, Any melee damage that I take is going to deal a lot of damage. And in order to reach a point where we're dealing enough damage to kill the enemies, we really don't need to take very much melee damage at all, but we should take a little bit so that we get to a point where we're killing them, ideally in one shot, pretty early in the game. And then from there, it's like a little bit of crit chance, a little bit of attack speed, some range so that our low range melee weapons can hit more enemies. And that's kind of our offensive stats for the entire run. Anyway, we're just rolling for more baits here. I can buy a 4th scissors, but based on 141 previous runs or whatever number I said, I knew that 7 baits plus 3 scissors is a survivable wave 2. And yeah, I'm going to eventually probably buy those 4th scissors, sure. But it's better to have the 7 bait this wave and buy the scissors next wave than it is to buy the scissors now and only get 4 bait this wave, because then I have like extra materials next wave to spend on something. Probably it's going to end up being bait, but next wave is actually more dangerous than this coming wave. I don't know if I explained that very well, but going for 7 baits and 3 scissors basically was a normal wave 2 for me. I also locked armor in the shop. Armor, again, armor plus sustain is kind of like how I was planning to survive. So I locked a duct tape, which gives armor. And this is basically like the pattern that I worked out for wave 2. I'm usually going to the top left corner and then going around down the left side of the map at the start. The game has like rotational symmetry or whatever, so if you wanted to go to the bottom right corner and go up the right side, you could. That would be fine, but this is how I've been doing it. I got 2 level ups there, and I took harvesting and melee damage. I would not have taken harvesting at the start of this challenge. At the start of this challenge, I was like, we need to get into combat-ready shape so that we can survive the waves, and then we can think about getting our economy going. So I would have been like rolling for armor or something like that. But increasingly, I was like, just don't get hit. LOL. And then you can take some harvesting and you have more money with which to buy broken stuff and get snowballing. So I don't have any defensive stats purchased just yet, not from the level ups. I do have this duct tape locked in the shop, which I think I'm about to buy, but in general, I have enough damage to kill the enemies, and I've already started taking harvesting, so I get even more money. But we do buy some armor in the shop there, and then mostly we're just rolling for baits because we do want to have quite a few baits on this wave. And I've locked harvesting, even though it gives me minus melee damage. I already have 6 melee damage, so I think that's enough, basically, to kill the enemies, so I don't mind that it's giving me minus melee damage. So I've locked harvesting, I've locked a 5th pair of scissors, which I'm going to buy next wave, and I've locked my first thief dagger. So I'm going to have 5 scissors, 1 thief dagger, and we're going to go from there. And that's kind of perfect for me. Once I have a thief dagger, the shop likes to give you weapons with the same tag as other weapons you have, so having precise on scissors gives you more chance to see a thief dagger in shops. It also likes to give you weapons with the same name as a weapon that you have. So that's why I've been seeing so many scissors. I already have scissors equipped. Quite a lot of the weapons that you see are copies of weapons that you already have. Once I have a thief dagger, I'm going to be offered far more thief daggers. So getting our first thief dagger in the wave 2 shop. It'll be operational on wave 4. Cool. We are basically good to go. We got 6 baits there. Basically spend all of our money to buy baits. Bait is, it's not just contributing toward having 1,000 of them. That's not really what I'm thinking about here. It is, it's more about like I'm getting 2 harvesting for each one I buy, so it's giving me more economy. And I'm getting 8% damage for each one I buy, so it's more quickly pushing me toward a point where I'm one-shotting enemies. And you just saw how I learned to survive these waves, basically. I'm going to replay it because it feels worth talking about. So all the enemies are spawning. I go top left, they all charge at me and shoot bullets 45 degrees around me, which kind of creates a little seam between the enemies who charge and the bullets that they fire that I can just kind of live in. And it's not perfectly clean. The enemies aren't all in a perfect glob, so it's not like there are stray bullets that I get hit by and stuff like that. But that's generally how I was learning to survive, and the better I got at that, the less I needed to worry about having more armor and more sustain in the early waves before stuff really got out of control. Took an item with health and regen there. I took some crit from a level up, so now that I have my first Thief Dagger, I'm starting to care about crit, because the more crit I have, the more money I have. Decided to take a little bit more melee damage so I can kill stuff. Locked a Thief Dagger. I'm not locking scissors at this point. I am already past a point where I care about buying more scissors. The scissors exist to get me through these early waves, sure, but I don't care about upgrading them. We are just going to move into Thief Daggers as quickly as we possibly can from here so that I can start getting more and more money. It's already wave 4, which is like, there are only 20 waves. I have to buy 1,000 baits. That's so many baits. Right now I have like, I don't know, 25 or something. So, probably less. That enemy that I just killed there gives me +1 curse. I believe this is the first curse that I've got on this wave. This enemy with like the purple backpack. So this is a DLC mechanic, and it's what allows me to find cursed items. Having curse also makes some of the enemies on the wave more powerful. You'll see some enemies start spawning with purple outlines, and that means they have more health and deal more damage. But that's like, fine. I mean, I have to deal with that. It's not going to be a reason why I wouldn't kill this enemy. I need to be able to spawn really strong curse items in order to snowball and win the run. So these are a high priority to kill. Alright, some armor, some range. So a lot of people don't realize that range is a very, very, very good stat on melee weapons in this game. And part of that is because of the description of range. The description of range somewhere explains to you that it's 50% effective on melee weapons, and that melee weapons with lower range will attack more frequently. And that really makes it sound like you don't want range on melee weapons, but it just isn't true. It is fine that range is 50% effective on melee weapons, because melee weapons attack as an area of effect. So like range is 100% effective on a ranged weapon, right? But a ranged weapon just fires one bullet. So giving it more range doesn't make it really deal more damage. If you're close to the enemies, it was going to fire that one bullet anyway, and it would deal the same amount of damage. Whereas giving a range to a melee weapon, all of a sudden if you're close to enemies, you can now like potentially hit twice as many of them with one stab, because the stab goes further, and the entire stab is an area of effect damage. So this is actually a really big deal, and the attack speed decrease from giving melee weapons more range is largely about the fact that it takes longer for them to travel that far, but in terms of like damage per second, and it's a massive increase to give a little bit of range to some melee weapons. You can overdo it and get to a point where like you are noticing it takes way too long for the attack to actually happen, and the enemies who are really close to you are like killing you right now, so you kind of need the melee weapon to finish its attack animation, come back and attack again to kill them. But that's like in the 400 to 500 range kind of area. It's not something that is significant at all when you're looking at this Thief Dagger. It has 172 base range, and I'm adding 45 to it. You don't have to think about that at all yet, really. All right, so we're buying a Thief Dagger here. I combined some scissors, so 2 tier 1 scissors makes a tier 2 scissors, and that allows me to have a slot to buy a new Thief's Dagger. I'm also buying a Gentle Alien. This is the first of my plus enemies items, so there are now going to be more enemies on the map for me to kill. Bought a Lure, which will spawn some loot aliens. Buying lots of baits, locking a Thief Dagger that I can't afford just yet. Locking a Defective Steroids. This is a pretty nice common cursed item for me, really. A little bit of max HP doesn't hurt. Not the biggest deal, but certainly doesn't hurt. +4 melee damage is a lot more damage, so that gets me to a point where I'm one-shotting everything quite a bit more quickly. Note that I'm already at plus 197% damage from buying baits. So, you know, we are already at a point where we're dealing lots and lots and lots of damage. For context, in a normal run, it would be unusual to ever reach that high a percent damage stat, and this is the end of wave 4. So Fisherman, when you're buying every bait, is very different. Anyway, we're also locking this, though, because it has +1 curse on it. And again, I want to get to a point where I'm getting really, really snowbally strong cursed items, so I want to make this curse number as high as I can. And that's 1 curse. This spawned because I had 1 curse from that enemy I killed on the wave. It's probably like a 0.1% chance of an item being cursed right now or something like that. I don't know, something very low, but I got one and I'm going to buy it and then I'll have 2 curse. And, you know, that's all we can do right now. And then I can decide whether to buy an alien worm or roll for more baits here. I don't remember what I did. But this is the sort of decision which is why there are lots and lots and lots of deaths in early game for me. Is like, that's the safe thing to do right now, is buy an alien worm. But the more aggressive thing that gives me more resources is to reroll twice and buy 2 more baits. And I'm not sure what I did. I'm not sure what I did. What did I do? I rerolled and bought baits. Hell yeah. Way to go past me. All right, cool. So as I got better at this challenge, increasingly I was making that sort of decision, which leads to this part being more dangerous, but leads to transitioning into mid-game and late game being more simple and more successful and more likely to give me the broken stuff that I need to actually complete the challenge. I bought a lure, so there were a couple of enemies who had crates on their backs, so we're getting a couple of items off of wave 5. Charcoal gives me more melee damage. I have to decide, actually, whether to take that or not. It's actually a decision. Because, like, yeah, the 2 melee damage gets me to one-shotting everything more quickly, but I already have 7 melee damage. I also have +4 melee damage locked in the shop right now, right? And it does give me -2 harvesting, which, like, it's a small thing, but this is really a run where I'm trying to, like, do every single small thing correctly to make a number at the end of the run as high as it can possibly be, right? So I do want to do every small thing correctly. I decided to take it, though, in this case. I certainly didn't do every small thing correctly. I do not in any way mean to imply that that is the case. Took some armor on the level up, get our purchases, see how many baits we buy here. We're getting more thief daggers and a little bit of crit chance for our thief daggers. So increasingly, I was going away from worrying about not having enough scissors until just like, we will buy scissors to start, sure, but once we've bought scissors to start, I am going to go for some thief daggers. And if we die, we die. I'm just going to trust that I'm good enough, was basically where I was at. This is a pretty influential shop. Sad Tomato is here. Sad Tomato gives +8 HP regen, which is almost 1 HP per second. Not quite, but like close. And there's also a lure here, which gives 2 HP regen and again gives 2 additional loot aliens. Those are the aliens with the crates on their back. So like you buy it for 56 materials and it gives you 2 HP regen, which is okay. It's not one of the like broken forms of sustain, but it's an okay form of sustain. And also gives you 2 more items for free on the next wave. You have to kill the enemy successfully, but those items could be pretty good. So generally I'm going to be purchasing lures. I had to decide though whether I wanted to buy lure now and roll for more baits or just buy Sad Tomato now, which is again, buying Sad Tomato now is kind of the safer thing, whereas buying lure now is more of an aggressive thing. And I decided to go for lure. And lock Sad Tomato because I do think it's a very strong defensive item, so I wanted the ability to buy it later. Interesting. Did I stop rerolling early there? So I can reroll for another bait here, but I guess with an 80 material Sad Tomato that I wanted to buy next wave, I decided... Oh, also with the fact that I'm going more aggressively for Thief Daggers, I guess, I decided... This is a situation where I didn't play as aggressively as possible. I decided that I wanted to have a few more materials saved up for next wave. You can also consider, like, because I'm making an 80 material purchase, that's going to cost me quite a significant chunk of materials next wave, which means the next wave is going to be hard for me to reach, like, the ideal number of baits for that wave, whatever that is. Increasingly, I was just kind of, like, buying as many as I possibly could, but if we're going to buy, like, 20 baits over the next 2 waves, probably we want to buy 10 this wave and 10 next wave. And so if we're knowingly making a heavy purchase next wave, it kind of makes sense to save a few extra materials to buy another bait next wave instead of buying another bait this wave. A little bit. I think that is where my brain was at with that choice, but was it correct? I don't know. You can see now some of the lamprey are cursed. Also, there are like more and more and more of them. Got pretty close to dying that time around. Definitely have less sustain now that I have 3 thief daggers and only 3 scissors. These waves are pretty tricky because you're also seeing now that there are more and more lamprey spawning mid-wave because I've purchased so many baits, and that's like the character's extra mechanic, is that purchasing baits makes regular enemies be replaced with lampreys in the middle of the wave. And so actually like moving across the map can start to get pretty hard. When they're all spawning at the same time, it's actually kind of easier to dodge them than when one of them is spawning all over the place. Got our first coupon there, which will discount further shop items. Got a little bit of health and regen. Doing a little bit of rerolling and decided on some attack speed, which is really nice, and crit chance now that I'm going for thief daggers more. And I decided to go straight up to 4 thief daggers because I have 17 HP regen, so I thought that's probably enough sustain. Let's get our thief daggers going. A bit more armor, a bit more harvesting, a bit more armor. A tree is always nice. Trees, where'd that item go? Where did that item go? More trees spawn. This is 1 more tree per 60 seconds. And when you kill a tree, there's a chance that it has a crate in it with an item in it. And also it gives you materials, and also it heals you. So that's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of value. It will pay for itself over the course of not too long, and is just a pretty effective way to be spending our materials. Yeah, armor's kind of... Armor is the stat where I am purchasing small incremental amounts of armor as all this happens. I'll like buy an item that just gives +1 armor, where I'm rarely purchasing an item that gives, say, +2 melee damage or something like that. Basically, the items that give a small incremental amount of damage are bait, which I'm buying 1,000 of. For armor, there's no real like singular broken item that gives you like 20 armor. You kind of have to buy 20 armor items in order to have lots of armor. So that is kind of the one thing in the run that I am buying incrementally in shops. And pretty happy to take in level up screens as well. I found unlocked Shackles here. Shackles is another pretty good defensive item, another 8 HP regen. It's not terribly priced, and plus 80 range isn't terrible. It does cap my speed at its current value of 0, but this is not a run where I need speed. I'm not worried about dodging enemies, really. I mean, I'm already dodging enemies, and 0 speed is enough to dodge the lampreys. That's not a big deal. Actually, having more speed kind of makes it harder to dodge the lampreys, because they run directly at you and then fire something at 45 degrees, and you want to be able to be in between those two vectors. And if you have too much speed, it can be hard to, like, you're basically, it's like maneuvering a sports car driving at 100 miles an hour between those two vectors, when you could instead be like just walking between them on foot or something like that. It's just like easier to pilot actually at 0% speed than at 20% speed, in my opinion. But anyway, yeah, we found Jackals. That's another 8 HP regen. Because I'm going more Thief Daggers, I'm more excited to purchase some okay sustain items here. And we also found Goblet. I think it is absolutely possible that I could have not purchased Shackles in this run and just gone with the Goblet, because Goblet is one of the very, very, very strong sustain items. And once I have that, we can start thinking about getting rid of Scissors entirely and just going for Thief Daggers. I don't know. I decided to go with the Shackles. The range is actually okay for damage still, so they are kind of also dealing damage. I definitely could have maybe skipped them and gone for only Goblet now that I see that I have Goblet available, though. Oh well, not what I did. You can really kind of see how there's a wave of enemies and a wave of dots, and like if you just hang out right in between them, somehow nothing hits you. It really doesn't feel like it should work, but then, you know, you do it and it does. You can also see, though, that Like, even with 300% damage up or whatever, and a bit of melee damage and some broken sustain items already and stuff, I'm still taking quite a lot of damage on these waves. Like, dying in mid-game is very much a thing, playing this challenge in this way. Which kind of surprised me. I thought intuitively that if I survived early game, I should just kind of win, but that's not how it has tended to happen. I just took a white harvesting there over like a purple max HP, so like a common tier harvesting over a rare tier max HP. That is me very much saying, okay, I'm strong enough. It is time to win the run now. We're going to take crit to get our thief daggers to a point where they're 100% critting. We're going to take armor still because that is the like most efficient way to continue to survive. But I'm just like already trying very hard to turn the corner into late game maximization of bait numbers at this point. As evidenced by taking a tier 1 harvesting. I think that's kind of a wild choice. I think it's probably incorrect. But, you know, what does that even mean? One thing that I haven't gotten much on this run is luck. I don't know if I have any luck right now. And that's interesting to me because I actually was taking luck earlier in these runs as I got like better and better at this to give me a better chance of getting the really strong purple items earlier on in the run. And I still have 0 luck. So maybe that's just that I haven't been offered much in the way of luck on my level ups and haven't gotten any like random luck items. I don't know. My first bag. Bag is a... Sorry, where'd it go? Bag is a strong economy item, which I didn't mention. What a disaster. All right, we're back at the beginning of the shop phase now. There it is. Plus 15 materials when you pick up a crate, minus 1% speed. I actually still have the run open, so I can take a check here. Bags gained me 1,000 materials over the course of the run. So I'm paying 33 for this, and we can give it a third of the credit for how many materials it gained. So it's a purchase of plus 300 materials, basically. But obviously delayed. The reason I didn't mention them on the like things that were broken for economy page is that they didn't do anywhere near as much as the other stuff, but it is still a bit of extra economy for sure. Goldfish. Goldfish is a fun new item. Goldfish makes it so the items in your next shop are 1 tier higher. And so I'm basically white is the lowest tier, then blue, then purple, then red. I don't know if I've seen a red item yet. I have 0 luck, and it's still very early in the run. The more rare items spawn more often as the run goes on. So you're not really expecting to find really strong purple and red items on wave 8. That's just like not really a thing. But as you get into mid-game, you're hoping to find some of the strong purple items, and then if your run is dependent on strong red items, you're hoping to find those like kind of like wave 15 plus almost, or from killing elites. Elites will drop a red item, but most strategies are not dependent on a red item because you just don't see enough of them to consistently get them in any run. Anyway, we take a goldfish, we sell our last pair of scissors, and now we're just full thief daggers, and I got my first tentacle there. So tentacle is one of the really strong sustain items that I mentioned earlier. Doing more combining, buying another tree, buying lots of baits. Okay, this nail here. This nail purchase might confuse you a little bit. I mean, it's not like a terrible item by any stretch of the imagination. Plus 5 engineering. Plus 5 engineering, and weapon damage additionally scales with 20% engineering. So I already have 12 engineering. So what this is saying is I get plus 3 extra damage on my weapons, and then that's multiplied by the plus 475% damage. So it ends up being more like plus 17 damage, I think, or something like that, which is non-negligible. And then also I have 41% crit chance, so a decent amount of the time that's doubling again. So that's all like fine, sure. But the actual reason that I'm purchasing this has nothing to do with that. The actual reason I'm purchasing this is that I'm looking for very specific purple items to break my economy, and this is a unique purple item, which means after it's purchased, it can't appear again. So anytime that I roll an item in the shop and its rarity roll is purple, it's going to select from all the possible purple items and choose one of them. It will never be able to choose nail again. So I'm just like making it more likely that I get the purple items that I really need by taking some of the purple items that I don't need out of the pool sometimes when I buy these unique purple items. Actually, now that I'm kind of like more in my mindset now, maybe that's why I bought Shackles, because like Shackles is an okay purple item, but also it's unique. And that's maybe even a bigger deal. Did I just bought some HP regen. Why? Huh, that kind of surprises me. I guess I was concerned about I guess I was still concerned about the surviving into late game, which I'm going to trust past me more than present me on that. Past me knows how past me was feeling better than present me does. And past me was the person piloting this run, so if I thought this is a little bit spooky and I could really use another 3 HP regen, you know, I'm gonna trust that that's what I thought. I don't think I needed it though. Sitting here in the present, I think that was just a waste of materials. Small waste of materials, but again, this is a run about trying to do all the small things correctly, right? You are starting to see that, like, now that I have a goblet and a tentacle and a good amount of HP regen, I can take hits and heal back up pretty quickly. So, like, I can walk through the middle of the enemies there, and I'm nowhere near as, like, threatened by death as I used to be earlier on in the run. Buy the nail. Upgrading more thief daggers, taking a little bit more harvesting still. Oh, I didn't bother upgrading. Oh. Why? Why didn't I upgrade the thief dagger? I think what's going on here is it's like wave 9, and I was thinking it's time to get the really strong purple stuff, so I'm not necessarily going to buy all of the small items that I might want, but I'm surprised I didn't upgrade that thief dagger, or at least buy that tier 1 thief dagger and combine other ones. All right, this is the first spyglass I've been offered, so this is the pivotal item in the run. But here's one of the really frustrating things about the run. I have 5 cursed right now, which probably means items have like a 1% chance to show up cursed or something like that. Not very high, maybe even 0.5%, I don't know. It isn't cursed. It's a limited item. I can only have 2 copies of them total. So if I purchase this, the chance of getting minus 90% reroll price in the run basically goes to 0. Now, also, if I purchase this, it's going to save me a lot on rerolls right now. It's going to lead to me getting more baits right now. It's going to lead to me getting the broken economy stuff set up right now. And so if I'm aiming to get 500 baits this run, I should probably buy this right now. But I'm aiming to get 1,000 baits this run, so I can't buy it. I have to either lock it and look for very specifically fishhook, which is an item that makes it so locked items in your shop can become cursed. But that's really hard. That's looking for one specific blue item to buy, and then I will have a 20% chance of cursing my spyglass, which isn't even, like, even if I find the one specific blue item, you know, then it's only 20%. And I'm locking a shop slot, so there's one shop slot that's always bait, and now one shop slot that's locked. So how easy is it to find, with only 2 shop slots available, one specific blue item? Not very. Or I just have to not buy it. I just have to reroll and hope it comes back again later. And so that's what I did. Starfish. Starfish is the first of the really strong econ items. Sorry, I just rewound a little bit so I could pause on it. Plus 20% materials dropped from enemies and plus 10 harvesting. The enemies also start dealing more damage now, so I have to be, you know, a little bit considerate of that. Probably I buy this helmet that's in the shop as well to get another armor, but yeah, this is the first like strong econ item that I've been offered over the course of the run as of wave 9. Also worth noting, Fisherman gets minus 50% materials dropped from enemies, right? So on a regular character, this would go from 100% materials being the base amount dropped to 120% materials being the new amount dropped, so a 20% increase. On Fisherman, it goes from 50% to 70%, so it's actually a 40% increase in materials dropped from enemies to buy one starfish, to buy your first starfish. So Nice to get one of those. Buying a leather vest because that's more armor. And I think at this point... Oh, I just bought... I have 0 luck still, right? Propeller hat is a common item with plus 10 luck on it. I just bought my first luck of the entire run as of wave 9, which is kind of wild. I don't think I rolled past many other luck items so far. I could, for what it's worth, lock Shady Potion. Oh, I did lock Shady Potion. Okay, so Shady Potion is an item that's locked that gives another 20 luck. So I'm finally getting some luck. Luck makes it more likely that you get higher rarity stuff. If you have 100 luck, you have twice the chance of getting blue items, purple items, and red items compared to base. So yeah, going from 0 luck to 30 is pretty significant in terms of your expected number of materials spent rolling in shops in order to find a specific purple item, just because it's showing you so many more purple items now that you have a little bit of luck. And yeah, that's why I'm surprised that I don't have any luck yet in this run. I guess, like, when you're playing 142 runs, certainly you don't do everything right all the time, but also I think I just didn't get offered much of it. You can see that, like, the money I have spent on survivability is being tested there. My health is definitely dropping sometimes. I only have 28 max HP, which is not very much max HP. And a lot of people watching this challenge, I'm going to pause for a second to talk. A lot of people watching this challenge were like, yo, if you had more max HP, wouldn't that help you a lot to not die? And like, yeah, kind of. But it's not as efficient to stop myself from dying by spending money on max HP as it is to stop myself from dying by spending money on armor and sustain. And so there were some deaths where if I had 10 more max HP, I would have survived. But also, as you watch this run, the fact that I didn't spend any money on max HP and still was able to survive just fine means I had some extra materials in order to get everything going and spend money on baits and stuff, right? I had been streaming without a like stream interface element on the screen, so I just put that on. Found 15 luck. Buy a Shady Potion, that's another 20. Buy a Bowler Hat, that's another 15. So suddenly I have 60 luck. So now we should be finding far more like blue and purple items. We're now up to 3 tentacles, so I should never have to worry about dying again at that point. That is a huge increase to my sustain. And now it's really just time to buy all of the bait. I think I buy Strange Book here because it's unique. Oh, I also think I buy Exoskeleton. Exoskeleton's another 3 armor. It's also 5 crit chance, so 5 crit chance is still necessary for making my Thief Daggers give me more money. Might end up buying the entire shop here. I bought Strange Book just because it's a unique purple item, and I want to find the economy purple items, so getting the unique ones out of the pool is a big deal, as I was talking about earlier. Strange Book doesn't actually offer me any relevant stats for the run whatsoever. Yeah, and at this point, I'm like pretty strong. I can start thinking about walking into enemies a bit more. There's a strange thing with the way I'm sustaining. The way I'm sustaining is killing lots of enemies, and the way iframes work, where if I'm taking damage, I only get hit every certain amount of time. Where actually it's easier for me to survive in like a mob of 50 enemies than it is for me to survive in a mob of 5 enemies if the 5 enemies are hitting me. Because in the mob of 50 enemies, I can only get hit a certain percentage, like a certain frequency of time period. And I heal way more because I kill way more enemies. Whereas if there are only 5 enemies, I can still get hit just as often, but I don't heal nearly as much. So that's kind of an interesting thing to notice here. Took another armor. That's fine, I don't know. Took another armor. I think that's fine. At some point, the level ups just don't really matter that much, is a big thing. There just aren't that many stats that I care about getting from level ups. It eventually ends up just being about luck and harvesting. But if you're spending a lot of money to reroll, for luck or harvesting. That kind of defeats the purpose of getting more luck and harvesting anyway. Bought a couple of unique purple items here. There's another one, Barnacle. Barnacle also gives me Curse when I level up, so that will help increase the chance that the next time I see Spyglass, it is cursed. And there's a Black Flag, which is another cursed purple item. And I found Spyglass again. But again, I don't have a hook yet, and it wasn't cursed, so I can't buy it. So that time I didn't even bother checking. I just go leave the shop. Doesn't work, sorry. It's already wave 12, and like nothing that lucky has happened in this run, I wouldn't say. So thinking about like, is it possible for this number to go higher? Like if someone's searching for the world record for most baits in a Fisherman run, can they get more than 1,215? Like, yeah. Like, yeah, 1,000,000%. Like I could have gotten a hunting trophy on wave 5. I could have gotten cursed Spyglass ×2 already. Like there are so many ways that this number could go far, far, far higher than I got it in this run. But my goal when I set out was to get to 1,000. My goal wasn't to like have a world record or whatever. That's not what I was going for. And so I got my goal, and I'm pretty happy about that. I don't have to take unique red items because this run doesn't care about any red items at all. And I'm starting to roll my level ups to get luck or harvesting a little bit. There's my first fish hook. So the next time I find a Spyglass, I can lock it and try to hit a 20% chance that it will upgrade. I'm also taking blood donations here, which give 40 harvesting, just because harvesting is okay. Thief Daggers have an innate crit chance, so even though I only have 61% crit chance, I don't have to buy more crit, because a red Thief Dagger, I think, has 40% innate crit chance or something, so my red Thief Dagger already crits 101% of the time. And also, I might end up with more crit chance from buying stuff anyway. Oh, maybe worth noting, like, I bought more Tentacles after I said that I was basically invincible. Tentacle has plus 3% crit chance on it, so it's also giving me money to buy Tentacle. Tentacle's a very good item for this build. And yeah, this is my first really, really, really broken item of the run. I found a cursed hunting trophy. It gives 50% chance to gain a material when killing an enemy with a critical hit, and also gives me another 8% crit chance, which is useful for all of my Thief Daggers other than the red one. And it gives me plus 3 curse, so more chance of future items I see being cursed, which is a really big deal. So, absolutely huge moment for the run right there. That's the first time that I thought, like, oh, this like has a lot of potential, because that represents a lot of extra materials, which I can use to buy some stuff. Mostly just buying, like, unremarkable, okay econ items and upgrades and stuff here. Treasure map is an item that makes it so when you find crates, they can have extra items in them 20% of the time. I ended up with 5 of those over the course of the run. Did it matter much? Kind of, because I did kind of throw it all together from an item that I found in a treasure chest, so maybe it did matter a lot. But not enough for me to like really flag it as a relevant moment. They're just kind of cheap, and clearly the extra items you get are going to more than pay for the amount that you're paying for the treasure map, so why not buy it? Starting to really get large packs of lampreys spawning mid-wave now. Eventually we absolutely reach a point where my computer was dropping frames playing the game. I haven't watched it back on the recording yet, but I imagine the recording was as well, because if my computer was, I'm not sure how the recording could have not been. More harvesting. Guess I took armor, I guess that's fine. So an interesting thing here that I'm not sure about. I haven't done math about this. I haven't played late game that many times. I don't know if it makes sense to buy Little Muscly Dude here for plus 4 curse or not. I don't know how much plus curse should cost for me to want to buy it. The plus 5 melee damage and plus 10 max HP on that item don't really matter at this point in the run. So if I buy it, It's just for +4 curse for 121 materials. Is that worth it? I don't know. I'm also not really sure like how much it's okay to spend on luck. I'm going to buy a shady potion, 20 luck for 111 materials. I think that's clearly correct, just intuitively. Have I done the math on it? No, absolutely not. So just wanted to note that. I think I forgot to buy a bait in that shop. We got a cursed tentacle here, another sweet cursed item. Cursed wheelbarrow is some harvesting and also some extra curse. So once you get a little bit of curse and start seeing more cursed items in the shop, the items do more stuff, so they're great to buy most of the time. And then you get more curse, so you see more curse items. So curse starts to snowball in a really interesting way. It's a cool DLC mechanic, and the sooner that you get it going, the more that can be true, which is an interesting thing to think about in this run. Like, could you get a really strong cursed item on like wave 5 and then get a ton more cursed items based on that and go really ballistic? You could, in theory. I'm reminded of the Diablo 2 speedrun that I watched a while ago, where somebody set the seed and all of the RNG for the run. So it's like a theoretical run, and it was like twice as fast as the world record. Like, if you set it so that everything goes perfectly in a game with so much variance, the result is going to be far, 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 far better than what a human has achieved. But, like, is it reasonable for a human to ever achieve that? Not really. It's kind of like how if you shuffle a deck of cards, it will probably be in an order that no deck of cards has ever been shuffled into before, just because with that much randomness going on, there are just many, 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 many possible outcomes. And if you're searching for the best possible outcome out of that many outcomes, you're looking at a project that could take you like the age of the universe to complete, kind of thing. We found Crown here. I drew attention to Crown earlier. It gained me like 1100 harvesting over the course of the run, and some people who are more familiar at the game might have thought like, oh, he's so lucky. He got an early Crown to get that much extra harvesting. I didn't. This is at the end of wave 13. It's like a pretty late Crown, in my opinion, for the amount of rerolls I've been doing. Got another fish hook, so I have 2 of those now. I don't think I'm buying this exoskeleton. Already good. I decided not to buy a knot. This is interesting. Knot is not an unlockable item, so knot has to be in your item pool. And it is a unique purple, so it would kind of be nice to remove it so that I can find more hunting trophies and stuff. However, I want to get Cursed Thief Daggers for 2 reasons. One, Cursed Thief Daggers have a higher chance of getting materials when they kill enemies. It gets up to 100%, whereas the regular red Thief Dagger, not cursed, only has 80% chance. Also, a Cursed Thief Dagger gives me more curse, so it will increase the chance that if I find a spyglass, it might be cursed. So that's the other reason why I didn't buy it. And if I roll it again, I'll just have to be a little bit frustrated. Fried rice, another unique purple item. No relevance whatsoever for the run. Going to buy it to remove it from the pool, though. Fairy, another unique purple item. That one's actually pretty good to get early, but at this point, it doesn't matter at all. The HP regen that it provides just isn't very relevant compared to... I mean, look at that. I am now just walking through waves of enemies being invincible. But yeah, we're going to buy the unique purple items if they are not actively bad for us, so that we can find the other purple items more likely. Hit, hit, hit. Shoot, shoot, shoot. There is no longer really a lot of skill involved in movement. We're just kind of walking to enemies and killing them. I guess one thing that's important to note maybe is there is a max number of enemies allowed alive on the map, and so many enemies are spawning that I think some enemies may be despawning. So trying to kill enemies as quickly as possible does actually make it so there are more total enemies over the course of the wave. more total enemies that you kill. Because if an enemy despawns on account of there being too many enemies on the map, it doesn't give you materials. This is the third time I've found spyglass in a chest this time. Again, unfortunately, uncursed. Items that you find in chests can be cursed. So I have 47 curse at this point. There is maybe a 10% chance, maybe lower, that this spyglass would have been cursed. Probably lower. But yeah, no luck. That is fine. That is part of the challenge run, is seeing spyglass and not losing your mind as it continues not to be cursed, even though you desperately need it to. I took Pocket Factory here. So when I said that like all of my kills were with crits, I guess I was wrong actually, because by taking Pocket Factory, I'm making it so there are turrets, and probably my turrets got kills sometimes. I have 27 engineering. I don't know. I don't know if any of my turrets got any kills. We are pretty late game and they're pretty weak turrets. But the reason I'm taking it is this is a unique blue item. And at this point in the run, it's no longer even about purple items. Now I'm trying to work out how to get a specific blue item. So why does it say no in the top left of the video window? Oh, I've turned on subtitles for it, probably. Accidentally. I must have pressed a hotkey or something. And I said no when I saw the spyglass and it wasn't cursed. At this point, I'm like getting probably a little bit frustrated because I'm rolling so much. This is the time when I need to find spyglass for the run to do really well. There's my third fishhook, by the way, and another unique purple item. And a cursed thief dagger. So this is this is an exciting run. I didn't know there was a hotkey to turn on subtitles. I'm going to turn them off again because they were confusing me. I should have bought that tier 1 thief dagger. There's a cursed coupon, which I think I drew attention to when I was talking about the run. Sunken bells, another unique purple item. You can see I have a lot of money now, right? I am making lots and lots of money per wave at this point. Taking ice cube because it's a unique blue item. Taking community support could be a useful item, definitely, if I wasn't already really strong. Gives you a lot of attack speed, so that helps with sustain, because the more times you attack per second, the more lifesteal goes. So if you get it early, it's pretty useful for sustain. At this point, though, it's just a unique purple item, really. Not taking white flag, which is a unique blue item, which removes a 5% of the enemies from the map, because the enemies are how all my money appears. And we're on wave 15, and I still haven't found spyglass. So again, thinking about like, can this run do better? Yeah, like I've rolled something like 10,000 materials looking for spyglass recently, and I still haven't found a cursed one. So for sure, we could absolutely find a cursed spyglass much, much earlier, and that could get the number quite a bit higher. It's not just getting more baits earlier on in the run. If you find an early cursed spyglass, you're also picking up all of the broken items faster because you're getting more rerolls per wave, and more bait means more harvesting, so you're getting more money for future waves as well. So yeah, if I had found a cursed spyglass like 3 waves earlier, this could have been a much higher number. I might do this more. I might go for 2,000 next. 2,000 does not seem unachievable at all. Taking that item for +1 curse, because at this point, I kind of need to find a spyglass and have it be cursed already. I think I am continuing to... Oh, I didn't upgrade my Thief Dagger, yeah. Because if I have Cursed Thief Daggers, the only thing I need is 100% chance for the kill to give a material, and Cursed Thief Daggers achieve that before red. So for non-Cursed Thief Daggers, it makes sense to upgrade them all the way. But for Cursed Thief Daggers, you don't actually need to. You just need to upgrade them until they have 100% chance to give a material. Here's my second hunting trophy. Took a while to get those together. I think I find the third one in the same shopping phase, if I remember right. Another coupon. I think I should be taking luck items, probably. Another starfish. That's another one of the econ items. Blood donation cursed. Good curse also kind of like an econ item. I mean, it will pay for itself over the next 2 waves, but it puts me behind right now, is why I said kind of. Just kind of doing the thing, doing the thing, doing the thing, doing the thing, turning a Thief Dagger into a Cursed Thief Dagger. I should not have combined there, actually. That was a mistake. Dangerous Bunny gives me another free reroll. Only buying the cursed items when they're cheap enough to justify it. Oh my god, I've just clicked out of the video. I don't understand what just happened, but I have to find where I was. Let me pause the recording for a second and find it. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, we finally found a spyglass. So this isn't cursed, but this time I have 3 fish hooks. So if I lock it in the shop, there's a 60% chance that it will become cursed. And at that point, I have 1 cursed spyglass, and I still have to work out how to get the second cursed spyglass, but at that point, there's a 60% chance we'll have 1 of them cursed next wave. And if I have 1 cursed spyglass, I can reroll a lot more times next wave. 1 cursed spyglass is probably enough for me to PB still. My PB at this point was like 700 that I played offline, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, 700 seems achievable with 1 cursed spyglass, maybe. My econ's doing pretty well, you know? I probably have like 200 baits at this point, by the way. Like, it might look like I'm buying lots of baits, and I am, but it's just 1,000 is a big number. That's the thing. A huge part of this run is just getting minus 90% reroll cost for shops in late game, where you are, you know, if you look at my materials on the left side of the screen there, I am making a lot of materials right now with all of the stuff that I've purchased that helps me to make money from enemies. And also all the stuff that I've purchased to make it so there are more enemies. And then also, you might have seen it jump from 6,100 to 7,200 there, or 6,100, 6,000. I have 1,200 harvesting, so at the end of the wave, I also get 1,200 materials from harvesting. So, as I mentioned before, we get some crates on this wave with a spyglass locked in the shop, and one of the items in the crates is a mirror. Duplicates the next item you get from the shop. So I'm allowed 2 spyglasses, and now if the spyglass that I have in the shop curses, and if it rolls high enough on its curse to be minus 90% shop reroll cost, I have the best possible reduction of shop reroll cost worked out. And I mean, I hope this isn't a huge spoiler at this point, but that's what happened. So I should have just taken luck there instead of re-rolling, I think. The other thing I can do is I can take crit chance. Oh, actually, I don't even need luck anymore. Anyway, I did roll minus 46% reroll price on a cursed spyglass. I'm currently freaking out a little bit on the recording. Chat is also freaking out. Some of the people in chat have been watching me do this for the last 16 hours, minus a 2-hour break I took for dinner. So, like, there are some people who are pretty invested at this point, for sure. And I think at this point, I'm just, like, taking a moment to, like, take stock of what's going on, to get a sense for myself of, like, what am I aiming for off of that. I have had 2 cursed spyglasses before, but I didn't get it until the final shop of the wave. And in this case, this is shop at wave 16. There's also a 17, 18, and 19 shop. So I have 4 shops at this point. And so now I'm like reorienting away from like survival, away from finding spyglass, toward how do I purchase the most possible baits with 40,000-ish materials. And I think I'm playing it wrong already, by the way. Oh, no. Oh, here's... Okay, so it's fine. I'll explain why I thought that later, but at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm rolling for the rest of my Cursed Thief Daggers. I think there might be 1 more hunting trophy that I have to buy. Basically, there are a few more unique items that I want to buy still, which I don't have yet. So I'm just happy to reroll. I'm usually not purchasing anything, but like there's a Cursed Thief Dagger. I actually want that. That will give me more stuff over the rest of the run. So we're just rolling, buying bait in every shop, and then when we see absolutely obscenely good stuff, we are going to buy the absolutely obscenely good stuff. I don't know if I should be buying stuff that's got curse on it at the moment, because it would increase the percentage of the enemies who are cursed in waves, which I get money for killing enemies who are cursed. There's another starfish, so there's one of the broken econ items I was talking about. I'm just checking that my cursed weapons have 100% chance to give a material when they kill there to see if I need to upgrade any of them or not, because curse has some randomness to it. So like a blue cursed dagger could have 100% chance to give an extra material, whereas a purple one might not. There's actually a pretty substantial range there. Another cursed dagger. Upgraded the blue one. I guess I needed to. Got another coupon. Pretty sure that is worth doing. Yeah, it's definitely worth doing. Maybe? Ooh. Maybe I should have tried to curse that coupon. So you're now watching something that I've done like twice. So you're going to see me kind of live processing some of the choices that I make, which is interesting because I'm not sure. Here's the deal. With all of the stuff that I've talked about, I'm not sure that it's perfect. That's just like default. It's hard to be perfect. Very few things are perfect. There's the first mouse of the run. Mouse gives plus 10% enemies, and I hadn't found one yet. Another good purple item that I just hadn't even seen one of yet. Yeah, I'm not sure that any of this is perfect. There's a goblet that I didn't bother buying because I'm already invincible. But the stuff here in this shop phase is like still very actively in the process of me trying to work out what on earth is going on. That was my third hunting trophy. Worth noting, there are only 4 waves left. Hunting trophies, I think, made 11,000 and something materials over the course of this run. They're only at 4.6 thousand or something so far. So in these last 4 waves, I am getting quite a lot more stuff. And now that I have that hunting... Okay. This is what I want to explain. Now that I have that hunting trophy, I like kind of looked through and was like, do I have everything broken? Yes. Okay. So what I'm doing now, rather than buying the bait every shop, I'm locking the bait every shop. And then once I have 4 baits in the shop, I'm going to buy all 4 of them. And look at what happens to the reroll cost. It now costs 0. If you buy everything in a shop, you get a free reroll. And so for this reroll is free, right? There's 1 bait available. And then I pay for 1 reroll. So I paid for 1 reroll, paying for 2 rerolls. And in this case, I actually recycle a Thief Dagger. So here I paid for 2 rerolls and got 3 baits. And what I'm doing with a recycling machine, which makes it so recycling the weapons gives you more materials. In Brotato, you can recycle your weapons, but you can't recycle your items. So the items I've bought are permanent, but the weapons I've bought I can recycle whenever I want. If I want to get this shop down to 0 things in it for another free reroll, I can use my 6th weapon slot to purchase a weapon. And that will get rid of one of the slots. And basically it costs me like... we can look at exactly what it recycles for, but like not many, like 15 materials or something to buy this Thief Dagger. So I get... it costs me 2 rerolls to make the shop total. I get to buy 3 baits. I'm also spending like 16 extra materials for the ability to do that. So 2 rerolls and 16 materials to buy 3 baits is what I did that time. And that is pretty good. Now here, I started with the free reroll, right? I think I'm going to lock this stick. So again, that is a weapon that I'm going to use. So here again, I paid for 2 rerolls and I used a free reroll. And then I'm paying for whatever the price of the stick is minus what it recycles for. And I'm getting 3 baits. And the point of this is that this is better than getting one bait per 1 reroll. Getting 3 baits for 2 rerolls is 1.5 baits per reroll. I'm also paying for a stick. But even if I weren't doing the stuff with the weapon, it would still be better to be locking the baits until I had 4 of them in the shop and then getting 1 free reroll, because then I'm paying for 3 rerolls and getting 4 baits, which is 1.33 baits per reroll. So depending on what the reroll cost ends up being, this Thief Dagger recycles for 19. I think it cost 33, so I paid 14 materials in order to do that. So the question is, 2 rerolls plus 14 materials for 3 baits. Is that better than 1 bait for 1 reroll? Obviously, yes. Is it better than 4 baits for 3 rerolls? That depends on the reroll cost, right? There's a mathematical equation here. I haven't done this yet. I'm doing the math live. But 13 materials plus 2 rerolls for 3 baits is... I mean, that's just a very simple algebra, right? Does this screen work right now? No. Basically, the point is, we don't have to solve this right now. Maybe I'll solve it later. Those of you who are good at math have already solved it in your brain, and I have already approximated it in mine. We do want to be sometimes purchasing cheap items or locking cheap weapons to buy and recycle them in order to get this free reroll more frequently in order to get as many baits as possible. Now here's the thing. I have talked through all of the decision making in this run other than the decisions that I'm going to make about whether to purchase cheap weapons or not, which I'm making kind of at random, to be honest, because I hadn't done the math before, and this is the second time that I've played late game like this. So like my decisions aren't even right. So how valuable is it to really talk about them? They're just like vague approximations of what's right that I'm kind of going by feel on. There is another 50 minutes in this run or something like that, which is almost entirely just me doing this. So for the sake of completion, I'm going to put all of that in the video. However, I don't have that much to say anymore. Really? Like, we kind of did it. That was it. This is the payoff now. You can see, I guess, how the reroll cost is going up, even though I have minus 90% on it. I guess that's worth noting. I guess that's a thing to comment on. But other than a simple math equation, which I didn't bother to do properly, there isn't anything left here. So what I'm going to do is set the rest of the run to 2x speed and go feed my cat. And maybe I'll come back and chat with you or something. I don't know. But yeah, that was that. I will sign off in a bit. Also, I have plans with friends tomorrow, so I'm going to catch up on some text threads that have been popping off while I've been recording. It's been like my phone's exploding out of the corner of my eye. Thanks for checking out this journey with me. I had a lot of fun. Let me know in comments. I've been doing more videos like this, which are like 2 or 3 hour YouTube exclusives. There's the Frosthaven series that I've been making that I'm enjoying a ton. There are always the PowerPoint videos, which some people like and some people really don't. And there's stuff like this too, where like, this is just an achievement that I made in Brotato that I wanted to talk about what was going on behind the scenes for, because a live setting isn't really a very good place to spend an hour going through every different element of that. Gosh, that's a lot of dots going very fast. If you like these sorts of videos, I do like making them, but they make me a lot less money than streaming. And so in order to like justify making them, I'm like currently working on a weekend. They're the sorts of videos that I make when it's like the middle of the night when I just feel like I could work for a bit but don't really want to do a stream. Stuff like that. If you would like me to make these as a more common thing, uh I could like set up a Patreon or something to support me doing that. And if people in the comments say that that's something they are interested in, perhaps I will. And if people in the comments don't say that, I will probably just keep on occasionally making them whenever I feel like it. And they won't be as regular, but you know, you'll get them when you get them. Okay. Enjoy watching a 2x speed shop phase that goes for, I mean, I have 9.5 thousand materials right now, right? It goes for a long time. That was just one shop, right? Ooh, we're at 602 baits. For counting the baits, all of the non-cursed baits go in the same pile, so that's nice. But all the cursed ones are individually in your inventory, so like, that was an elite, by the way. So for those, we have to count them individually after the fact. So my belief that there are 1,215 baits in this run is based on me counting them individually in my inventory. I'm pretty sure I got it right. There were a bunch of people watching me do it, and they seemed to think I was right, so probably it's correct. Starting to like drop frames and lag in game there. However, if you notice something that's like, wait a second, that doesn't look right, please, you know. Well, okay, first make sure that it actually doesn't look right, because it might just be that you're wrong. Lucky coins, like maybe the one red item that's a really big deal in this run, and I didn't find it until right now, and so right there I was sitting and thinking, like, do I want it? Turns out I'm pretty sure I don't. Just already past the point where it mattered. Yeah, please don't, like, say that something is wrong in this run if you're wrong, because that's just irritating. But if you notice that something seems off and spend a lot of time trying to understand how it happened and can't work it out, you know, feel free to let us know. This is going to be a lot of clicking. A lot more clicking. What shall we do? What's new with you all? It's almost Thanksgiving here in America. I'm just gonna talk for like 20 minutes, I guess. Didn't prepare anything. I can tell you some more about Brotato, I guess. So there are 62 characters in Brotato now. And I think 14 of them are new, maybe 16. I don't know exactly. The curse mechanic is new, and quite a few of the new characters interact with the curse mechanic, which is fun. Like, there are characters who deal more damage the more curse they have, that kind of thing. There are characters who deal less damage the more curse they have, but have to gain curse over the course of a run as well. Or maybe they don't deal less damage but have less armor or something. Anyway, that feels kind of flavorful with curse, I guess. I've been finding curse to mostly be a player buff. Obviously, there are downsides in the enemies being stronger, and sometimes that does get you. But for the most part, it just feels like it's a player buff. I feel like I should be purchasing 2 weapons when I can be already. I wonder how many more... We could do that math. That's a thing we could do while this happens. I wonder how many more baits I could have got if I did this part of it mathematically correctly. The thing is, like, it's a lot of clicking buttons and stuff, and there would be some way to do it the most efficiently, but I don't think the way to do it the most efficiently is like 20 baits better even. I think it's relatively small as a difference. I think understanding that you can lock 4 baits and get a free reroll is a big deal, because that does give you 20% more baits, and that is a very large difference. That's like another 120 baits or something. But the stuff with locking weapons to change the equation even more in your favor, I don't think is as big a deal. If it were 50 difference, I would be shocked. I think it's more likely that it's like in the 10 to 20 range. I was just checking that I had recycling machine and how much money it had made there. If you got a cursed recycling machine, it could change this phase of the game a little bit. Kind of interesting. I think here I'm like actually having a conversation with someone in chat about whether I should be recycling 2 weapons. So now I'm paying for 2 weapons in order to get 2 baits for 1 reroll, which is, you know, another equation. And it's not that complex an equation, right? Like, if reroll cost is high, that's going to make sense. The thing that's complicated, though, is you have to think about what the reroll cost will be at the end of all of the shopping, because that's the reroll that you're saving yourself from having to pay for, is the final reroll. Like, you won't have to buy that because you got a free reroll instead. And so you have to, like, from here, be able to predict what the final reroll will cost, which, like, I don't know. I think I was kind of guessing that it would get up toward 100, but I don't actually know that. If it's 100, is it better to buy 5 baits for 4 rerolls, or to buy 4 baits for 3 rerolls and pay 63 materials? That one seems pretty straightforward. It's better to buy 5 baits for 4 rerolls there, right? Oh, but there's also the thing where if you're buying 4 baits for 3 rerolls and paying material cost, you have fewer rerolls total. So it actually changes what the final reroll would cost. Too complicated? Too complicated for me to do live. I would need to sit down with a spreadsheet and spreadsheet it out, I think. Hey, Zephyr. You want to come say hi to people? Yeah? Want to say hi? Hey. Zephyr, come. Yeah. Yeah. Hey there. You want to come up? This is my cat. So playing Brotato, you can definitely do challenges like this, and it can be a lot of fun. I find Fisherman challenges to be really awesome. Farmer is a fun one to try to get as much harvesting as you can on. People like that a lot. I have tended to be playing Brotato more for win rate recently, and specifically the way I've been liking playing it is just rotating through every single character and seeing how many wins versus losses I get as I rotate. So if I play a character and lose on wave 3, I don't play that character again for another 62 runs because I play all of the other characters first. There are a lot of characters. The game has a lot of variety. On average, you will play a character once every 62 runs, no matter how you choose to play characters. So that's one way to do it. I enjoy that a lot. It's really fun to challenge yourself to be adapting constantly. All the different characters, like different items will be good on them, different starting builds will be good, different things will be challenging. I used to be doing that with a random weapon start. So each character has somewhere between like 0 and 30 weapons that they can start with. 0 because there are characters who actually don't have weapons. I think only one character that has no weapons. And then some characters have a huge number of different possible starting options. And starting with random weapon makes it a lot harder, both because some of the weapons will be stronger than others as a starting option, but also because like you don't have experience starting with every different weapon on every different character in Brotato. There's just too many. So you're often in a situation that you've never been in before when you do that. So that's how I've been playing it. But lately I've been, with the release of the DLC, choosing my weapon. And what I'd like to do is get through all 62 characters with a perfect record, 62 and 0. I think it's pretty achievable. This is my first time through, and currently I'm like 33 and 3 or something, so 3 losses and 36 runs, which is a good start. And a lot of the runs have felt very under control with me starting with a weapon of my choice. Like, it's harder if you start with a random weapon, which is what I'm used to doing. So now that I'm starting with the weapon that I think is the strongest, it's like often pretty straightforward and easy. I think if I want to get a perfect record, what I should be doing though is playing the hardest characters first and then resetting if I lose as them, which is not what I'm doing at the moment. So that might be the next thing that I do, is a challenge in Brotato. That one's like a pretty hard challenge though. That could take me like a long time to successfully achieve. That could also just be something I never successfully achieve. Like that's a pretty substantial challenge. Brotato also has co-op mode now. It's couch co-op, so no online play, but you can do Steam play together to play with someone online. So like it's not actually supported inside the game, but it's supported outside the game, I guess. And it's like really fun and goofy. So you're able to all pick different characters, or even all pick the same character if you want to just play like up to 4 of the same character. And there are lots of goofy things you can do because some of the characters like change their rules. Like there's a character, for example, that increases the size of the map, and if you have 4 of those, all of a sudden the map's pretty big, right? There's a character that makes it so there are more enemies, and if you have 4 of those, well, there are going to be a lot of enemies. That kind of idea. So I played a little bit of that with friends, and that was a good time. The game is under $10. It's like, yeah. A lot of people look at it and say, like, this reminds me of Flash games, and I think they mean that, like, as a criticism, but the simplicity of the game and the readability of the interface, I would say, are both points in its favor. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Is this what you wanted, Cat? Zephyr has been meowing at me a bit, and I already gave him food. But then he meowed at me more. He already has fresh water. Maybe he just wanted cuddles. Just want cuddles? Sometimes he wants me to go take a nap with him, but it is 1 p.m., which, like, is actually a perfect napping time, I would say. A little post-lunch nap. But I think I have things I'd like to do today. Tough luck, Cat. We're very nearly there. So, I'm now getting rid of my thief daggers because I don't need my thief daggers to make me money anymore. So, like, we can recycle the upgraded thief daggers, and it gives me back some of the money that I spent on them over the course of the run. Lets me buy more baits. Get one more free reroll here, just barely. I think I did all the count here. Like, I thought that I needed to sell more weapons than I did to get one more bait here, and was like, well, an interesting question is, do I need to survive the final wave? Can I sell all of my weapons here? Like, is the category only for wins, or if you die, does that count too? I don't know. It depends on, I mean, I'm not really doing this as a competition with anyone else, so I kind of think the platonic ideal of this challenge is actually to sell all your weapons, buy more baits, and just die on the final wave. I think that's really funny. But I don't know. People said I shouldn't do that or something. so I'm not. If you try to go for dodge tanking with adrenaline and 60% dodge, You actually probably could do that and just survive the final wave. That would be funny. I didn't go for 60% dodge here. 60% is the dodge cap. Adrenaline gives you 5 HP every time you dodge. So if you're taking like under 7 damage per hit, theoretically 60% dodge and adrenaline just gives you infinite health. Problem is if you get lucky lots of times in a row, you die. Or if you get unlucky lots of... and the other problem is you have to spend a ton of money on armor in order to achieve that, and then you have to spend quite a lot of money on dodge, and I'd rather just spend the money I'm going to spend on armor, which is going to get spent anyway, sure, whatever, and then, like, buy one tentacle or something instead. Seems like a better way to do it. So, anyway, I did my count. I think I counted 1,214 here, and then I was like, wait a second, I can get one more. Get the free reroll, buy one more bait, 1,215. I think I did a little bit of a look-see at how this had all developed. Oh, I think right now I'm typing in my Discord like, hey, I did this thing. And then the final boss wave has 2 bosses. I just killed both of them. Did you see it? I don't know. and that's the run. So, 1,215 baits and 20 waves. And that was what I got up to yesterday. I had a ton of fun. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. I will see you next time. Be well.